3 True Female Murderers Horror Stories. You might have heard of serial killer men, but have you ever heard of a woman who were serial killers in history? Today, we will talk about some creepy and scary women serial killers who made a really disturbing crime history. Number 1. This is a chilling story of a lady serial killer, Katherine Knight, who not only stabbed her husband with a knife, but also she cooked him and served him to her children. That's truly difficult to digest. Before we dig deep into why she attempted that cruel act, let me tell you about her disturbing childhood life. Katherine was born in October 1955 in Tenterfield, Australia. Her birth was also a product of an affair between her mother, Barbara Rowan, and her father, Ken Knight. As her birth was a result of a scandalous affair, she had to suffer a lot in her childhood. Her father was an alcoholic who used to rape her mother daily. Katherine also claimed that she was sexually abused by many of her family members until she was 11 years old. She quit school and worked at a clothing factory, and then she moved to a slaughterhouse where she used to cut the internal organs of animals. She was so happy and obsessed with her job that she hung her knives over her bed so that she could use them anytime. Later, she met David Kellett, a man who was like her father, being an alcoholic and was prone to fistfights. He found Knight very interesting as she dominated him. Knight asked him to marry her. Knight's mother warned him about her daughter, that she is mentally not stable. They got married. Katherine tried to kill her husband only one day after the marriage, but still, their marriage worked for 10 years. During this course of time, they had 2 children. Both Kellett and Knight were like psychopaths. Knight's behavior was more disturbing. Once, she got to know about her husband's affair. She placed her 2-month-old infant on the train tracks, and the train was about to arrive soon. When people approached her, she tried to threaten them with an axe. She also had a postnatal depression diagnosed by doctors, as her behavior with her infants was violent. She was sent to a psychiatric hospital, where she spent a few months. She told nurses that she wanted to kill a mechanic who fixed Kellett's car, as she would not be able to escape if the car was broken. Still, Kellett took her home, and their marriage didn't last long. Kellett left her, and she got even more depressed. Knight then met a local miner, David Sonder, and fell in love with him. He moved in with her and her 2 daughters. Just like the last relationship, Knight was violent and toxic. She killed his puppy in front of him by slitting his throat. They had a daughter too. Knight attempted to kill Sonder with a pair of scissors. He left her due to her threatening behavior, and now Knight was alone again. She then met John Chillingworth and married him. Knight had her first son with him. There was no violent behavior reported for 3 years in this marriage, but as Chillingworth got to know about her affair with another man, John Price, he left her. With John Price and his 2 older children, Knight started a new life. When she asked him to marry her, he declined, and Knight started to become more violent than ever. She attempted to kill him too. Price told his colleagues that if he ever went missing, everyone must know that Knight killed him. One day, Price went home after work, and shortly after, Knight went home. She took dinner and did some routine work, and then both of them went to bed. When he was sleeping, Knight took a huge knife and stabbed Price 37 times, according to reports. He tried to stop her, but couldn't do so. She dismembered his body and cooked him with vegetables. After that, she went to bed beside him and took pills, which made her pass out. In the morning, police came and looked at all the chaos. Price's head was still boiling in water as she was preparing him for the children to eat. She was arrested, and in the history of Australia, she was the first serial killer who was sentenced to life without parole. She is still alive and spending her life in Silverwater Women's Correctional Centre in New South Wales in imprisonment. Number 2. This is another chilling story of a female serial killer, Leonardo Serenchi, who was known as the soap maker of Correggio. She had a very disturbing life from the start. When she got married to a registry clerk, Raphael Passandri, in 1917, her mom cursed her marriage as she was not happy with this marriage. She had 17 children and 3 miscarriages. But out of 17 children, 10 died in a young age, and 3 were lost in miscarriages. So the 4 of the remaining were her everything. She was overprotective of them. In the meanwhile, Cianciulli met a fortune teller who looked at her hands and predicted prison in her right hand and criminal asylum in her left. The curse of her mother and these predictions were deeply affecting her initially. Also, due to miscarriages and death of her children, she was suffering with anxiety and depression that no one gave attention to. In 1939, her oldest son, Giuseppe, said that he was going to the Italian army. Her behavior changed a lot from that day. She loved her son the most in the world. She was afraid that her son would die in World War II. Somehow, Cianciulli thought of an idea that caused chaos. She thought that only human sacrifice could save her son from dying. Now, her first brutal crime happened. Faustina Setti was her first victim. Cianciulli invited her to her home by saying that she would set her up with a husband. It was paid work. She received life savings amounts of Setti for this work. Cianciulli asked Setti to write letters to her family that she was marrying a person abroad. As she was doing so, she drugged her. When she passed out, she stabbed her with an axe and made 9 pieces out of her body. She collected her blood in a basin and made tea cakes out of coagulated blood with cake ingredients. Also, she made soap with the remaining blood by mixing baking soda and other ingredients. She served those cakes to ladies who met her and also ate herself. Later on, she found another lady named Francesca Sovi. This time, she guided her saying that she has got a teaching job abroad and she needed some information. So she invited her home, drugged her like Setti, killed her, and made soap and tea cakes with her blood. Her third and last victim was a noted soprano singer, Virginia Cacioppo. She lured her by telling that she got a job for her with an impresario in Florence. Just like the other 2 victims, Cianciulli drugged her, killed her, and made tea cakes. This time, she did something more brutal. She melted down her flesh and made soap with that. When she was admitting her crimes in court, she said that the soap was really soft and cakes were really sweet, made by Cacioppo. She served those to her neighbors and friends too. She was sentenced to 33 years in prison and 3 years in criminal asylum. So the prophecy of a fortune teller came true. She died of apoplexy in the asylum. Number 3. So, here is the third controversial, bizarre, and horror story of female serial killer, Aileen Wuornos. She was born in 1956 in Michigan. Her mother was just 15 when she married Leo Pittman. They had 2 children, but their marriage ended after 2 years because Leo was charged with a sex crime and murder of a 7-year-old girl. Leo hung himself in prison. He never met his children. Aileen's mother also left her 2 children, as she thought she was not capable of bringing them up. Aileen was just 4 years old when her mother left her. In 1960, Aileen's grandparents adopted her. Living with her grandparents was really unfortunate for Aileen. She was raped by her grandfather, which led her to do sexual activities with her brother. She was just 14 when she was kicked out of her grandparents' house because she had a child with his grandfather's friend that was an unwanted child. She put her baby up for adoption as soon as it was born. She started to live her life as a prostitute. She lived in the woods by selling her body. She was barely earning enough for herself. Her grandmother died of liver failure, and then she moved to Florida in 1976. She met Louis Fell, who was 79 years old. She married him. Her behavior was still bad. She used to have violent crimes at bars and fights with locals. Just 9 weeks after the marriage, her husband filed a complaint against her, as he hit her with a cane. Now she was on the streets once again. Her brother passed away due to esophageal cancer in the same year. She received $10,000 of life insurance after her brother's death. She went back to Michigan and continued her crimes. She was charged with theft, robbery, and crimes like that many times. She also had a lot of affairs. She started dating Tyrion, who was a maid in a hotel. She continued earning money as a prostitute even after dating. In the area near Florida, numerous male dead bodies were found from time to time. All of those dead bodies were shot with a .22 caliber pistol. So police concluded that all of those men were killed by the same person, which means a serial killer. At last, police were able to get Aileen's fingerprints from one of the victims' cars. In 1991, they arrested Aileen from a biker bar in Volusia. She confessed to her murders. Psychiatrists said that she was suffering from borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. She was sentenced to death 6 times after police found more victims of her brutality. She asked for just black coffee as her last meal. Her ashes were spread under a tree in her hometown. That's all for today's video. Did you get the goosebumps? Tell us your thoughts in the comments section below. Thanks for watching.